If you have ever been to Guangdong or Fujian province, you have probably seen this scene. A small tea table in a neighborhood tea house or someone's living room. A few cups, absurdly tiny. The host lifts the teapot, tilts it with practiced ease, and a surge of boiling water hits the leaves. The fragrance rises, and just like that, the conversation begins and may not end for the rest of the afternoon. Now imagine a different scene entirely. A small building in Kyoto. A room no larger than 4.5 tatami mats. The entrance is a low wooden door, so low that anyone who enters must bow their head, no matter who they are. Inside, the host kneels in perfect stillness. Every movement is deliberate. Both hands rise, cradling a dark ceramic bowl, and it is passed, without a word, to the single guest. The same leaf, two rituals, two philosophies, two entirely different ways of inhabiting time. Chinese gongfu tea holds its soul in the warmth that flows between people. Japanese Chado holds its soul in the deep silence between a person and themselves. Today I want to take you into the world of the tea ceremony, not to teach you how to brew, but to tell you the story of how a small leaf, across 1,000 years, became a way of living, and what it might still offer us, in lives that feel increasingly rushed and restless. The story of tea is far older than most people imagine. There is a legend, thousands of years old, about the mythical herbalist Shenong. While tasting wild plants, he swallowed something toxic. A breeze stirred a tree above him, and a few leaves drifted into his mouth. The poison dissolved. Those leaves, the story says, were tea. Of course, it is only a legend, but it tells us something real. The encounter between tea and the Chinese people reaches so far back that even its origins have dissolved into myth. The first figure we can point to in verifiable history is a young man in the Tang dynasty named Lu Yu. Lu Yu was born in 733 CE. Reportedly an orphan raised by a Buddhist monk, he spent his life doing something no one had done before. Over 30 years. He walked the mountains and valleys of China, spoke with farmers and merchants, tasted water from hundreds of springs, and then wrote it all down. The result was the classic of tea, the world's first encyclopedia of the leaf. Its opening line reads, "Tea is the magnificent tree of the southern lands." 7 characters. The foundation of an entire civilization's relationship with a plant. The way people drank tea in Lu Yu's time would be barely recognizable to us today. The 10th method, called boiled tea, began with compressed tea cakes. Before drinking, you would roast the cake over fire, grind it with a stone mortar, then boil it in water, sometimes adding salt, spring onion, even ginger. The result was closer to a savory broth than the clear, fragrant liquid in your cup this morning. But this method, carried by the currents of Tang civilization, crossed the sea to the Korean peninsula and then to Japan. In 804 CE, the Japanese monks Sacho and Keikei sailed to China with the imperial envoy mission. They returned carrying tea seeds and dried leaves at first. Tea in Japan existed only within the imperial court and the monastery. It was medicine, a stimulant for long meditation sessions, a rare, precious thing from the continent. At this stage, tea was not yet a ceremony. It was simply a drink. The real turning point came in the 12th century. The Zen monk Aisai made 2 journeys to Song Dynasty China, returning with tea seeds and with a new preparation method he had observed among the Song literati. Whipped tea or mat leaves steamed, dried, ground to a fine powder, then whisked with hot water until the surface held a layer of foam. This method, meeting the fertile ground of Japanese Zen aesthetics, began a slow chemical reaction. 4 centuries later, in the 16th century, a man named Sen no Rikyu completed that reaction. Rikyu was not a nobleman or a monk. He was the son of a warehouse merchant, but his understanding of tea surpassed everyone around him. He designed the austere, grass-thatched tea room, stripped of all ornament. He distilled the spirit of Chado into 4 words: wa, kai, sei, yaku, harmony, respect, purity. Tranquility, he taught, that tea ceremony was not a craft about tea. It was a discipline about the human being. And so, a leaf, lifted from a hillside, became a philosophy. In China, the culture of tea took a fundamentally different direction. In the early Ming dynasty, the Hongwu emperor abolished the compressed tea cake tradition that had dominated for centuries. Decreeing that loose-leaf tea would be steeped directly in water, a single imperial edict issued for administrative reasons quietly transformed how a civilization drank. Tea became more accessible, more spontaneous, more woven into daily life by the Qing dynasty. In the coastal provinces of Guangdong and Fujian, a highly refined brewing tradition had crystallized. Gongfucha Gongfu tea. The word Gongfu here has nothing to do with martial arts. It means the investment of skill and time. The hallmark of Gongfu tea is described in 4 qualities: concentrated, fragrant, hot, and small. Concentrated, the brew should be thick with flavor. Fragrant, each steep must release its full aromatic depth. Hot tea is meant to be drunk immediately. Small, the cups are deliberately tiny, so that each person drinks in a single mouthful, one steep at a time. Experiencing the subtle shifts in character from the first pour to the last, the technique of gongfu brewing has its own vocabulary. First, warm the pot and cups with hot water, bringing the ceramic up to temperature. Then add the leaves, typically a third to a half of the pot's volume. Pour in a high arc, so the water agitates the leaves as it enters. The first steep is poured away entirely. This is called washing the tea, part hygiene, part opening, allowing the compressed leaves to unfurl. From the second steep onward, the infusion time is short, seconds to half a minute, depending on the tea. Longer each round when pouring. The host moves the teapot along a row of cups in a sweeping pass, guanggang patrolling the city. The final drops. The most concentrated fall into each cup one by one. Han Xin counting soldiers. Every cup receives the same tea. But the technique is not the point. The point is the atmosphere that forms around the table. Tea is the thread that holds people together. 3 or 4 people, seated close, pouring and refilling, talking without agenda, family gossip, business worries, old stories, silence. The topics shift. The tea changes through its steeps. An hour passes without anyone noticing. In this culture, let me make you tea is one of the most intimate invitations a person can extend. More private than a restaurant meal, more relaxed than a formal meeting. It says, I have time for you. Real time. Japanese Chato moved in the opposite direction entirely. The tea rooms send no Rikyu-designed looks. From the outside, almost impoverished, thatched roof, earthen walls, barely 4.5 mats in area. The entrance, called Nijiriguchi, is less than 70 centimeters tall. Everyone who enters must crouch, bow the head, fold themselves small. This was not an accident. It was a statement. At the threshold of the tea room, rank dissolves. The samurai and the merchant kneel at the same height. The feudal lord enters on the same terms as anyone else. Inside the room there is a single alcove, the tokonoma, where one hanging scroll and one arranged branch or flower are displayed. Otherwise, nothing. The host works through each step of the preparation, folding the tea cloth, purifying the bowl, scooping water, measuring the powdered tea, pouring, and then whisking the wrist, moving in a rapid W pattern until a fine, even foam covers the surface. Each of these movements has been practiced for years, sometimes decades, not in order to display skill, but so that skill disappears. When emotion is sufficiently mastered, it is no longer emotion, it becomes breathing, presence, simply being. When the guest receives the bowl with both hands, they rotate it inward twice before drinking. Why? Rotate. Because the bowl's most beautiful face is turned toward the guest? Rotating it is a gesture of respect, an acknowledgement that you will not press your lips against its finest surface. A full tea gathering can last 2 or 3 hours. Very little is said. What flows between host and guest is a kind of communication. That does not require words, but the technique is not the point. The point is the atmosphere that forms. Around the table, tea is the thread that holds people together. 3 or 4 people, seated close, pouring and refilling, talking without agenda. Family gossip, business worries, old stories, silence. The topics shift. The tea changes through its steeps. An hour passes without anyone noticing. In this culture, let me make you tea is one of the most intimate invitations a person can extend. More private than a restaurant meal, more relaxed than a formal meeting. It says, I have time for you. Real time. Gongfu tea and Japanese Chato appear. On the surface, like opposites. One noisy, one silent. One centered on connection between people. One centered on solitude within oneself. But look carefully, and they converge on the same thing. Tea creates a protected interval of time, a pause from the current, a stretch of minutes in which you are genuinely, fully here. This, perhaps, is what tea ceremony means at its most elemental, whether you find it in a Kyoshin living room or a Kyoto grass-thatched hut. Tea ceremony cannot exist without its objects. To someone who knows tea, each piece of ware has a personality, even a life of its own. Let us meet them one by one. The first. The Yixing teapot, Yixing clay, comes from a small region in Jiangsu province. It is a rare earthenware containing a dense matrix of minerals ranging in color from terracotta red to deep violet purple. Each deposit yields a slightly different character. What makes Yixing extraordinary is its microscopic structure. Millions of tiny pores invisible to the naked eye allow the pot to breathe. Over time, it absorbs the fragrance of the tea brewed inside it, moderates the water temperature, and rounds out the flavor of each infusion. The longer you use a good Yixing pot, the better it performs. Experienced tea drinkers speak of cultivating a pot, rinsing it daily with tea water, wiping it with a clean cloth, handling it constantly. After years, the clay deepens in color and develops a quiet internal luster. Like a person who has lived well, a fine yixing pot can pass through 3 or 4 generations of a family, carrying the memory of every cup ever brewed inside it. The second, the gaiwan, consists of 3 parts: a saucer, a bowl, and a lid, representing earth, humanity, and heaven, the 3 realms. Unlike the yixing pot, a gaiwan retains no flavor. Every infusion begins completely clean, uninfluenced by any previous brew. This makes it the preferred tool of professional tea tasters and merchants, who need to evaluate a tea's true character without interference. It is also the most practical choice for a beginner, affordable, easy to clean, and suited to every category of tea. The third, the gong dubé, or fairness cup, sometimes called a tea pitcher or sharing vessel. After a steep is finished, the host does not pour directly from the teapot into each guest's cup. The infusion goes first into the gong dubé, where the tea from the first moments of the pour and the last moments blends together uniformly. Only then is it distributed. Every person at the table receives the same tea, the same strength, the same temperature, the same moment. Gong dao means fairness, impartiality. In a country where hierarchy runs deep, these 2 syllables carry weight. At the center of Japanese chado is the chawan, the tea bowl. Where Chinese ceramics have historically prized perfection, white as jade, smooth as a mirror, thin as paper, Japanese chado prizes imperfection. The most revered tea bowls are asymmetrical, their glaze uneven, their surface marked by small bubbles or deliberate cracks. Some are repaired with gold-mixed lacquer, a technique called kintsugi. The break becomes a seam of gold, and the bowl that has been broken and mended is considered more beautiful than one that has never been damaged. This is the heart of wabi-sabi. Nothing perfect, nothing permanent, nothing complete. Imperfection is not a flaw. It is the truth of things. The chasen, the bamboo whisk, is the instrument used to whisk matcha into foam. It is carved from a single piece of bamboo, its tines split and shaped into between 80 and 120 fine filaments. Chasen improves with use. After several hundred rounds of whisking, the bamboo softens to exactly the right flexibility and spring, but it does not last forever. In Japanese chado, there is a ceremony called chasen kayo, a memorial service for spent whisks. Old chasens are brought to a temple and burned, with words of gratitude offered over the smoke. A whisk that has been used up is not discarded. It is farewell. In the world of tea, objects are understood to hold feeling, to accumulate memory. Caring for them is a form of care for the self. Japanese chado is held together by 4 characters. Ichigo, ichi-e, ichi-go means 1 lifetime. Ichi-I means 1 meeting. Together, this encounter, this gathering, this moment is the only one of its kind that will ever exist in the whole span of your life. It does not matter how many times you have met this person before or how many times you will meet again. Today, right now, this is singular and unrepeatable. A disciple of Sen no Rikyu made these 4 characters his guiding maxim. They asked the host to give everything the choice of hanging scroll, the arrangement of flowers, the selection of charcoal, the temperature of the water, the weight of the matcha, the pace of each gesture, everything offered as if this single gathering is the only one that will ever matter, because it is. And they asked the same of the guest. Don't half attend. Don't let your mind drift to the meeting after this one or the message you haven't answered. Be here entirely. This bowl of tea is being made for you, this once, by someone who will not see this particular version of themselves again. When modern people encounter Ichigo, there is often a small jolt of discomfort because we have grown very comfortable with good enough to listen, good enough to be present, good enough to show up. 1 ear on the conversation, 1 eye on the phone. But Ichi says, not enough. Every occasion deserves your full attention, not because you must perform presence, but because this moment, exactly this one, will not come around again. Chinese tea culture does not have as clean a philosophical label as Ichigo, but its spiritual lineage runs just as deep. Lu Yu wrote in the Classic of Tea that tea is most suited to those of Jingxing Jian to refined conduct and modest virtue, Jingxin, to act with care and thoroughness, without cutting corners, Jian Di, to hold the inner self with restraint, without excess or craving. Together, these 8 characters sketch an ideal not of austerity, but of clarity, knowing what truly matters and giving your attention there. Chinese tea culture also carries a larger aspiration, Tianren Hei Yi, harmony between heaven and humanity, between the natural world and the human being. To brew tea properly, you must understand the seasons, which leaves are finest in early spring, which teas suit the cold months. You must understand water, the difference between a mountain, spring, and a river, a limestone well, and a deep rock source. You must understand fire, the behavior of different charcoals, the rhythm of a rolling boil versus a gentle simmer. Every detail of the brewing process is a conversation between the human and the natural world. Nothing is separate. Ichigo, Ichi in Japan, Jingxing GND in China. The language is different. The vessels are different. The rituals look nothing alike. But they are pointing at the same thing. A bowl of tea is a mirror. It reflects the quality of your attention in this moment. It reflects how much of yourself you are willing to give to the here and now. After all that history, all that philosophy, you may be asking yourself, can I actually experience this? At home, with what I already have? Yes, and you can start today. You do not need an antique mixing pot. You do not need to book a flight to Kyoto. You do not need to read the classic of tea from cover to cover. You need something that can boil water, a small quantity of decent tea, and 15 minutes, just 15, that belong to no notification, no obligation, no one else. Turn your phone face down, boil the water. While you wait, do nothing else. Watch the kettle. Watch the steam begin to rise. Put the leaves in the cup. Pour the water. Watch the leaves open slowly, like something remembering how to move. Pick up the cup. Before you drink, bring it to your face. Let the fragrance come to you first. Then drink. I'm Modern Tea Lab. Next time, we'll explore something that surprises most people. Dragon. Well, Billy Ochin and Japanese matcha are all green teas. So why do they taste so completely different? The answer is in how they're made and the story behind the craft. If you enjoyed today's video, please subscribe and tap the notification bell. See you next time. That's it. That is already the tea ceremony. Senno Rikyu once said, "The essence of Chado is nothing more than boiling water, making tea, and drinking it." It sounds almost too simple. But when you have done it, really done it, quietly, without distraction, you will understand what he meant. Inside those three ordinary things, the whole world is held.